It was a rainy day. Large raindrops splattered on the ground and onto the people hurrying down the avenue at this late hour. No one noticed the elderly woman walking slowly along the street. The drops fell on her wrinkled cheeks and her worn-out clothes. Her old coat had patches carefully sewn onto it, and she wore old-fashioned boots that looked like they would soon fall apart. On her head, she wore a large, plain scarf. In the old woman's hands was a slip of paper. She kept glancing at it, then looking around her. "This must be it," she murmured, checking the number on the building. "The same house number. Finally, I've made it." The old woman sighed in relief. She had stopped in front of an elegant restaurant. People dressed in expensive clothes were getting out of fancy cars and walking in with satisfied expressions. "Just in time to beg for money," one of the men sneered, brushing past her carelessly. But the old woman didn't seem to notice the unpleasant remark. She pushed open a large glass door and stood for a moment, looking at the brightly decorated walls and exquisite furniture. Then, she went to the receptionist's counter. A young woman, who a minute ago had been smiling pleasantly, wrinkled her nose and said reluctantly, "You must have the wrong address. Please leave the restaurant immediately, or I'll call security." "My dear girl, I'm not leaving," the old woman, whose name was Miranda, said. "I booked a table in advance, and I have money." She simply couldn't understand why she wasn't allowed in. "Are you kidding me? This is a respectable establishment, not a place for your sort. Go away." Miranda froze in surprise. Why was she being mistaken for a homeless person? "Yes, my clothes are old, but they're always clean and have no odor. My hair is clean, and I've never allowed myself to beg from strangers, even in the hardest times," she thought. Her thoughts were interrupted by the girl's harsh voice. "Richard, get over here now." A young man in uniform stood near the receptionist. "What's going on, Emily? Is there a problem?" "Yes. Look at this," she said, gesturing towards Miranda. "She claims she needs to come in and that she's already paid for a table. Do something." The security guard looked closely at the abashed old woman. "What's to be done here? Let's check her story. Show me your reservation." Miranda carefully pulled a handkerchief from an inner pocket of her coat and began to unwrap it meticulously until a document appeared in her hands. "Here, take it." The woman handed her passport to the guard. "So your name is Miranda, 80 years old," the man said, surprised. "Look, maybe you've misunderstood. This isn't a restaurant for people like you. It's better if you just stay outside," Emily objected defiantly. "No, I need to go to this particular restaurant." "Check, I made a reservation," the old lady insisted. The guard dialed a number, and the response genuinely surprised him. "Yes, indeed, there's a reservation, and it's even paid for. But I'm sorry, this is an elite restaurant, frequented exclusively by the city's wealthy and respected." "We don't want you here," the receptionist interjected again. The woman was deeply offended to hear this. "Why are these people treating me like this? I haven't done anything wrong to them. It was never like this in my youth. We always supported each other, for better or for worse," Miranda thought, perplexed. But she knew why she was there and wasn't going to back down. "I didn't come here to eat," Miranda stated. "I need to see the owner." The receptionist and the security guard were taken aback. The receptionist grew furious when she saw the old lady silently retrieve her reservation slip and start to climb the long staircase. "Don't you realize what will happen when that vagrant gets near the guests?" she fumed at the guard. "What am I supposed to do?" Richard replied. "Don't worry, the manager will kick her out in a heartbeat, and so will we. You have no idea how hard I work to have a job here, and I don't want to lose it over some old lady. I'll call the manager and let him know." What a day. I wonder why she even came here. Miranda struggled up the stairs, the effort making her legs ache. Finally, the seemingly endless staircase ended. She sighed. The woman opened a heavy door and found herself in a large, crowded hall. The many bright lights, in the form of colorful fixtures hanging everywhere, made Miranda blink. Decorated tables overflowed with all sorts of food. Waiters with golden trays glided past, and at the tables sat men in expensive suits and women in evening gowns. Miranda felt uncomfortable, but before a minute had passed, she caught the disdainful gaze of a man whose index finger was pointed directly at her. What in the world? This isn't a homeless shelter. Look at that. Hey, waiter. Can't you hear me? Yes, of course, sir. I'll inform the supervisor. We'll sort this out, don't worry. The waiter hurried away. That's right. These homeless people have some nerve. Now they're even coming into restaurants. Why aren't the guards watching out for this? Said a lady in a sparkling dress. Miranda closed her eyes in horror. She had never experienced such humiliation. She wanted to hide. Another young woman, clearly under the influence of alcohol, joined in, pointing her finger at the old lady. She didn't hold back her emotions. Isn't it a bit late for Grandma to be out at a restaurant? At her age, one should be thinking of eternal rest. Would you like to join our table? Just please don't sit near me. I'm allergic to that street dweller smell. The narcissistic woman's loud laughter echoed through the restaurant. The old woman tried not to cry in the face of such injustice. What's wrong with me? Yes, I'm old, but that's no reason to mock me and shame me in public. They'll get old and frail themselves. How can they not understand? When I was young, there was no such thing. We always respected our elders, no matter how much money they had in their pockets, Miranda asked herself but couldn't say anything aloud. Unfortunately, the mockery of the old woman continued. Shouts were heard from all sides. I didn't pay good money to look at a homeless person. Why should we have to endure such squalor? What is the manager doing? I'm going to have this restaurant shut down. The waiters hid in corners, whispering among themselves. Many felt sorry for the old woman, but no one dared to oppose the drunken crowd. These people like to come here to have fun, but more importantly, to show off their status. It was prestigious to work in such a place. The owner wasn't stingy and paid generously. No one wanted to lose such a coveted position. Only one girl, a waitress, was very upset. She hated seeing a woman insulted just because she was old and didn't wear expensive clothes. They're not human beings. How can you mock an elderly person like that? I'm going to talk to the restaurant manager right now and tell him what's happening here, she said firmly. You won't achieve anything. The manager will side with the guests. They bring in the money. She'll just get thrown out. Nobody wants her here. You haven't even worked here a week. Maybe you shouldn't risk it, another waiter advised. There are things more valuable in life than money, but you clearly wouldn't know about them, the girl retorted, leaving the room with those words. The situation became completely unbearable. A man staggered up to Miranda grandiosely and said, "Well, why don't you sing or dance for us, old dear? Come on, come on." And the man clapped his hands loudly. His silly idea was supported by the others. The audience roared with laughter. Miranda couldn't take any more humiliation. Her heart ached, tears streamed down her cheeks, her legs began to tremble, and she started walking towards the exit. Before she had even taken a few steps, the door to the hall opened, and a tall man appeared on the threshold. He looked questioningly at those seated at the tables and called out loudly, "Ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? Is everything all right?" Miranda couldn't take her eyes off the man who had entered, as if she were paralyzed. "Scott, my dear. You've grown up, matured. You look so much like your father. The same eyes, the same chin." Tears welled up in the old lady's eyes again, but this time with such a sudden, overwhelming joy that for a moment, Miranda even forgot the pain and humiliation she had just endured. But the man walked past her. He was more interested in the mood of his guests, the regular patrons. "Scott, everything's fine, as always, except..." One of the men pointed his finger at Miranda. "Well, why is she here? You have to admit, she doesn't belong here. Yes, get her out of here. Don't embarrass yourself and don't ruin our evening." The rest of the audience chimed in. Of course, it's just a misunderstanding, and we'll resolve it right now. As compensation, dessert is on the house tonight. No one else will disturb your rest, ladies and gentlemen. And you, come with me. He turned to Miranda. He didn't recognize me. Scott was just a boy back then. So many years have passed, a whole lifetime. He might have forgotten, the old woman thought, silently wiping away a tear. Are you listening to me? Scott asked again, already strategizing how to de-escalate the situation smoothly. Yes, yes. The woman stirred, waking from her memories. As soon as they were outside the main hall, the man said, "Hello, my name is Scott, and I'm the manager of this restaurant. It has come to my attention that the guests behaved inappropriately towards you. Please forgive them. They simply weren't expecting your presence in any way. I'll compensate you. I know you paid for the table. You'll receive double the amount. Not only can you eat, but you can also buy something for yourself." Scott had, of course, noticed the old woman's shabby clothes. It was no wonder she was mistaken for a homeless beggar. And what do people like her want? Money. The more, the better. But where did she get the money for the table? It's expensive even for a working person. And most importantly, why? Anyway, it doesn't matter, Scott decided, having no intention of dealing with this strange old woman any longer. Let me show you the way out. Downstairs, please, Scott said, pointing to the stairs. Miranda couldn't believe her ears. Was this her Scott? Yes, now a grown, solid man. But to her, he was still a child. And he was kicking her out. What a disgrace. The insults and humiliations from the restaurant guests were nothing compared to what Scott had just said. No, I won't leave until I talk to him. He must know the truth. Lost in her thoughts, she didn't notice Scott had already pulled out his wallet and was counting money. Here, take it. It's all I can do for you. At that moment, it felt as if the woman's heart would shatter into pieces. But she found the strength to say, "Scott, I won't take the money. Please, just let me stay and talk with you." Scott felt he was losing his patience. I have this homeless woman in my establishment, and I don't know how to get rid of her, he thought, annoyed. He felt himself getting flustered. It wasn't in Scott's nature to waste time on small talk with complete strangers. "I'm sorry, I'm a very busy man. I don't have time to talk to strangers." "Don't misunderstand me," the man said. "I'm not a stranger, Scott. I'm your mother," the old woman said, barely able to hold back her tears. The receptionist, Emily, and the security guard, Richard, exchanged glances. "I told you she was unhinged. You shouldn't have let her in," Emily hissed. Scott didn't believe the woman's words. "Look, this is too much. Why are you telling lies? What you're saying is a fabrication. My mother died years ago. As for the money, it's your right. Take it or leave it. But I'll have to ask you to leave the premises. Richard, deal with her." After a few moments, Scott disappeared from view. "What are you two doing just standing there?" Let's go," Richard ordered the old woman. Miranda could barely stand. She was shocked by Scott's words. The security guard closed the door behind her. The exhausted old lady sat down on a nearby bench and wept. It was dark outside. Everything was ruined. She had saved for so long from her meager pension to pay for a place in the restaurant where her son worked. Finally, the long-awaited day had arrived. All morning, Miranda had envisioned the moment she would see her son, tell him everything, hoping she could at least see him occasionally while she was still alive. In her excitement, the woman hadn't even noticed the unpleasant wind that had picked up as evening fell. Her hands were frozen, and her old gloves were gone. Maybe she had lost them. But what did it matter now? Thought the old lady, tucking her hands into her coat pockets. Suddenly, in one of them, she found an envelope. How could I forget? There's a baby picture of Scott in this envelope. He's 6 years old here. He must remember himself. Then he'll listen to me, exclaimed the poor woman. After the humiliation and insults she had suffered, She hadn't told her son the most important thing. Miranda decided to wait until her son left work and then finally talk to him. How much time passed? It felt like an eternity. Finally, the door opened. Scott and a few other people left the restaurant. He had already opened his car door, carelessly telling the driver, "Home." "Wait, dear," the old lady cried out with the last of her strength. "You again? Listen, go away quietly, or I'll have to take extreme measures." "I'll have to call the police," Scott replied unwillingly and got into the car. "Let's go." "No, wait," Scott ordered the driver when he saw the photograph in the woman's hands. The man got out of the car and asked, confused, "Where did you get this picture?" "From when I was 6. A photographer came to visit us then, and we took a picture as a memento." "Don't you remember that?" Scott thought and said, "I had 2 such photos, but the second one was lost." "Fortunately, it wasn't lost," the old lady said. Scott knew that this photo had been with him in an orphanage, then with a family that took him in, and now it was in an old photo album. "But how?" "They told me my mother died of a heart attack," Scott wondered but found no answer. "Hey, you're completely frozen. Come on, I'll buy you some tea, and we'll talk," Scott suggested. The woman happily agreed. Miranda was glad to finally be talking with her son. But while the woman's heart was calm, something strange was happening in Scott's soul. Emotions overwhelmed him, mixed feelings of joy at having found his mother, and resentment towards her for abandoning him. Scott had been lucky to have a foster family. His adoptive parents had given him everything: a home, a good education, and a proper upbringing. But they were very strict in their demands. Scott missed parental love. Things could have been different with his biological mother. They could have been, but they weren't. "Why did you abandon me? And now, suddenly, you're trying to find me?" "It's too late to change anything," he said. "Son, listen to me. I'll tell you everything. Just please, don't interrupt. I was born into a large family. My mother had 7 children. I was the eldest. My father died. My younger siblings grew up, started their own families, and moved away. I stayed in my parents' house. No husband, no children, no stable family. This displeased my mother, and I suffered, feeling I was living my life for nothing. But one day, everything changed. Thomas came to town, and I fell in love with him immediately. My mother reluctantly accepted him. She had nowhere else to go. But my joy was short-lived. Thomas drowned. It was devastating. I was dying of grief. But the troubles didn't end there. My mother died of a heart attack, and I was left all alone. It seemed life had no meaning anymore. But then, I received good news from you, my son. I found out I was pregnant. You were the best thing that ever happened to me. I took care of you, loved you, wanted to be the best, most caring, loving mother, a gift from fate," the old lady said. "What are you saying? Why did you betray me by putting me in an orphanage? You know, I don't remember your care, but I remember very well the terrible years I spent in the orphanage. If you've come to ask for forgiveness for that, don't expect me to give it. Not even your old age will help," Scott said with resentment in his voice. The glimmer of hope in Miranda's soul didn't last long. She had so hoped the photo she brought would help mend her relationship with her son, but alas, it hadn't. "Wait, son, I'll explain everything," the woman began, but Scott cut her off abruptly. "I don't need your explanations. I wouldn't believe you anyway," the man said. So many years had passed since then, and he himself would soon be 60. But the memory of his childhood never faded. He remembered how every Sunday at the orphanage, he waited for his mother to come and take him home, but it never happened. Instead of his mother, a foster family came. Miranda didn't know how to apologize to her son. She always remembered the day she took little Scott to the orphanage. He had looked at her with tear-filled eyes and begged her not to leave him in a strange house. But the woman had no choice. She herself was going to a strange house called a hospital, possibly forever. "Son, believe me, I had no other choice. My heart problems started a long time ago. At first, I felt discomfort, then severe pain and attacks. If only you knew how much I blamed myself for not going to the doctors sooner. By the time I did, it was almost too late. The doctor said only an operation could save me, and even then, my chances were slim. And even if I survived, I would have to spend a lot of time in the hospital. Son, forgive me. I was scared. I had no one to leave you with. I begged my siblings to take you in. While I was in the hospital, my relatives visited, but they all had their own children and excused themselves, saying they already had too many mouths to feed. I thought I was giving you up for a little while I was in the hospital. It turned out to be forever. But then, a miracle. The surgery was a success. I was out of the hospital in a month and a half. I went straight to the orphanage to get you, but my worst fear came true. You had already been adopted. I begged, terrified, for that family's address, but the orphanage director refused. From that moment on, life lost all meaning for me. I kept dreaming that one day, I would find you, no matter what. Today was the best day of all. My dreams came true. I saw you. Scott stared at the woman's gaunt face for a long time, trying to remember his mother's features, but he couldn't. He had no photos of her, and time had erased her face from his memory. The woman spoke so sincerely about her life that the man found himself thinking her words didn't sound false. It might have been a fairy tale, but he believed it. "And how did you find me after all these years?" Scott asked. "I'll tell you, son. About a year ago, in the park, I met a woman I had worked with a long time ago. Her daughter is the founder of a charity that helps place children in foster homes. It's probably not the right thing to do, but she did some research on the family that raised you. Then she helped me find you. Son, you're so successful and smart. I'm so proud of you." Miranda, of course, understood that her son wouldn't be able to forgive her just like that. He wouldn't call her Mom. The sting of betrayal doesn't just vanish. But maybe one day, he would be able to understand and forgive her. And that forgiveness would be the best reward she could ever receive. The prolonged pause was broken by Scott. "How are you living now? How's your health?" "It's just that you look." Scott trailed off, unsure how to say, "Like you're homeless." Many people have pointed that out today. I lost my parents' house. My sister's children, my own nephews, tricked me out of it. But I have a place to live. I rent a small room. Don't worry about me, son. The important thing is that you're doing well. They didn't realize how much time had passed while they talked. It was getting dark outside, and it was still raining. "Can I take you home?" Scott asked suddenly. "Yes, of course, son," the woman agreed. "Stop right here. I'm close by, just a few minutes," Miranda said hastily. "Are you sure? Maybe I should walk you," the man suggested. "Don't worry. Thank you for listening to me. I'll pray for you for the rest of my life." Miranda had told Scott the whole truth, except for one thing she was ashamed to talk about. She had lived on the streets for a long time, and then a man in the courtyard of the house where she liked to sit on a bench took pity on her. He was the janitor. He had a small utility room where, besides cleaning tools, a small sofa and a chair could fit. That was where Miranda lived now. She sank onto the small sofa. Her legs and head ached terribly, but she was happy. For the first time in years, that night she had the best dream of her life. A dream in which she was with her son. A few days later, Scott appeared at her door. "How did you find me?" the surprised woman asked. "You found me, now it's my turn," Scott replied, smiling. "Come with me," Scott suggested. "Wherever you want to go. I'll introduce you to my wife and my grandchildren. You have 3 of them." Miranda was overjoyed. Then Scott handed her a key. "I have a small apartment. No one has lived there for a long time, and now you will live there." Miranda had almost lost hope, but happiness found her anyway. It found her and warmed her like the hot summer sun. This happiness was given to her by her son, who was able to understand and forgive.